Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final day of Family Business Strategy Week, and happy Juneteenth to all from Family Business Magazine. I'm Peter Begala, the Conference and Education Chair. This series of one-hour sessions every day this week is designed to allow you to participate in thinking and conversation around what family businesses and families have learned from the past 3 months and discuss how we move forward, hopefully stronger than ever. The overall Family Business Strategy Week series is presented by our friends at Tollison Wealth Management with support of Abbott Downing, GenSpring SunTrust Private Wealth, Generations to Generations, and Family Enterprise USA. We'd like to thank you, the 588 registrants, for attending this week's series. Today's final session is focused on the future of family businesses, social distancing, and new business models. Today, we'll talk about the shift that these businesses had to make and the changes that may remain permanent moving forward in a session sponsored and hosted by Family Enterprise USA. Some quick housekeeping details. We welcome your questions and comments throughout the session. Use the question box to the left of your screen under the speaker photos. We also invite you to download relevant materials to this session, including articles from Family Business Magazine and the results of our pre-series survey. You may do that directly below the question box. We'll go for no more than 60 minutes today and get to as many questions as we can. I urge you to send questions in. It's really helpful to hear from the attendees and to pose these questions to our panelists. Today's session on the future of family businesses, social distancing, and new business models features the insights of 3 phenomenal speakers and good friends of Family Business Magazine. Jack Mitchell is chairman of the Mitchell Stores, a 3-generation family business that operates men's and women's specialty stores in Connecticut, New York, California, Washington, and Oregon that are nationally renowned for their personal service touches and strong relationships. After completing a BA at Wesleyan University in 1961 and an MA at the University of California, Berkeley in Chinese history, Jack joined the family business, Ed Mitchell, Inc., which was founded by his parents, Ed and Norma. Under his leadership, the Mitchell Stores have become well known for employee engagement and longevity and providing exceptional customer service and high-quality merchandising in an exciting, friendly, and visually dynamic atmosphere. Jack is an active leader on the floor, listening and learning alongside his brother Bill, wife Linda, his 3 sons, and 3 nephews. Mitchell Stores is a case study at Harvard Business School. It's important to note that in 2003, Jack Mitchell launched a second career as a speaker and author. His first book, Hug Your Customers, The Proven Way to Personalize Sales and Achieve Astounding Results, was a Wall Street Journal bestseller and received rave reviews in the New York Times. Thank you for joining us, Jack. Our second panelist, John Talashay, Chairman and CEO and President. John sits at the helm of his family business. In his role as President and CEO, John is responsible for the company's restaurant, real estate, and aviation divisions, with more than 30 years of experience working in a variety of roles, from busser to assistant manager to overseeing operations. He has touched every possible role within a restaurant. John has worked in an official capacity with SRC since 1987 and has gradually moved his way through the ranks. Talashay is also heavily involved in the local restaurant and aviation communities. He works closely with the California Restaurant Association, where he serves on the CRA's County Board of Directors, the CRA State Board, and the CRA Foundation Board. He is also a board member of the Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona, and is a trustee of the Flight Test Historical Foundation at Edwards Air Force Base. Our moderator for today, Patricia Soldano, has spent over 30 years providing family office services. She developed the Simrick Family Office Services into a multi-family office in 1996 and sold the GenSpring Family Offices in January of 2009, where she became managing director of the Western region for GenSpring for 5 years, and then a family office consultant to GenSpring until December of 2017. Ms. Soldano is now a family business and family office consultant working directly with families herself. Ms. Soldano is also the president of Family Enterprise USA Its mission is to promote the growth of family businesses in the U.S. She is a principal advisor to the Drucker School Global Family Business Institute and a member of CSUF Family Business Center and on the Family Business Editorial Committee for Trust and Estate magazine. So before we get into the session, I'm going to turn the floor over to Bill Rock, the president of MLR Media, publisher of Family Business magazines, for a few words about our series. Bill?
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to welcome everyone to our final webinar of Family Business Strategy Week. For those of you that attended the other webinars over the last 4 days, I hope that you found them insightful and valuable. And if you were unable to attend some of them, you can watch them online on our website at your convenience. For over 30 years, Family Business Magazine has provided leaders and owners of multi-generational family businesses with the knowledge, tools, and skills to be successful in their roles. We too are a family business, and we recognize the dual challenges of keeping both the business and the family functioning well. Family Business Magazine was created 31 years ago by my grandfather and father, and after a career as an executive in finance and media, my mother became publisher of the magazine in 2005. I've had the privilege and pleasure to work by their sides and help to grow our suite of services for the family business community. Multi-generational family businesses are the backbone of the American economy, accounting for an estimated 60% of U.S. GDP and providing tens of millions of jobs. But over and beyond their significant economic impact, many family businesses' attitudes, outlook, and values are providing a model for all companies. First, many family businesses have for decades balanced purpose and profit. Second, rather than focusing exclusively on shareholders, many family businesses have long recognized and supported other stakeholders, including employees, customers, suppliers, and their communities. Third, almost by definition, family businesses focus on creating long-term value, in contrast to the many public companies that concentrate on creating short-term shareholder profit. Fourth, many family businesses have developed and instilled a values-driven culture, and in many instances, these core convictions allow them to give priority to ethical standards. And finally, there's a recognition and acceptance of environmental, social, and governance responsibilities. As our country and economy struggle during this unprecedented pandemic, and as many in our nation call out for social justice to combat systemic racism in our society, the short-term shareholder-centric model of many public companies is rightfully under attack. And the views and purpose many family businesses have established for generations can provide a model for all companies to emulate. So over the last few days, we've seen examples from our webinar panelists on how these characteristics manifest themselves. Whether it's taking care of employees and communities in this time of need, family business leaders living their values to promote social justice, or companies maintaining a long-term perspective when dealing with customers and suppliers who also may be in crisis. Family business's brand of capitalism is underpinning the future of our nation. And as we turn to our final session, the future of family businesses, I think we will see that regardless of what is necessary in the short term, such as social distancing at the workplace, in the long term, the fundamental underlying traits of family businesses will serve them and our country well. So before we kick off this final session, I'd like to thank our sponsors of Family Business Strategy Week, our series sponsor Tullison Wealth Management, and our supporting sponsors Abbott Downing, Generations to Generations, GenSpring, and Family Enterprise USA, whose expertise and insights will help us successfully navigate the new normal. So our final session will be moderated by Pat Soldano, President of Family Enterprise USA, and I turn it over to Pat.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate your comments, and I appreciate Family Business Magazine giving me the opportunity to moderate this panel. I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation, and I would like to start the conversation by having both speakers give us a little background on the family business and the family itself. And so let's start with Jack. Could you please give us some history on Mitchell Stores and the family?
I'd be delighted to, Pat. Thank you very, very much. I'm thrilled to be part of this session. When our family business. My mom and dad started in 1958, 60 plus years ago. My dad was a commuter between Westport, Connecticut and New York City, which is about an hour on the train, for 25, almost 30 years, and never really felt that he was in charge of his own destiny, and he had ulcers. He had all kinds of challenges in terms of dealing with people that he really didn't have the same values that he did. And one day, I was a freshman at Wesleyan University. He hopped off the train, and with my mother's help, started the store, and a little men's and boys store, actually. It was 800 square feet. Again, I don't have a lot of time, so fast forward that very quickly. My brother Bill, younger brother, but he came in our family business as a second generation. So that and I came in soon thereafter, and we now have at 800 square feet is now 27,000 square feet in a town of 28,000 people. Men's and women's, we added women's and jewelry. That's what we do in the upper end, in the luxury space of designer clothing and designer and precious jewelry. And we were blessed with 4 sons, my brother with 3. 6 of those 7 are active as third generation leaders, as well as my wife Linda, who joined our team as the leading buyer of all. When we went over from a men's and boys store to a men's and women's, Linda stepped in, had been experienced because her mom had a store in Wilton, Connecticut next by. Anyway, she came in. So now there are 9 of us that are active in the family business. My brother Bill and my wife are the second generation, and then 6 of the 7 third generation are actively working in the business. And actually, my brother Bill and I have, first of all, our parents gifted us the equity in the business, and we, in turn, my brother Bill and I have gifted the equity and the real estate, which is 40% of our net value of our family business. Since then, we've acquired stores in Greenwich, Connecticut, Richards. We acquired stores out of bankruptcy, Wilkes-Barre in San Francisco, and Palo Alto. And 3 or 4 years ago, we acquired, through a partnership agreement with Mario Bizio in Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. And we have a small little store in New York that we started or bought, actually, it's on Fifth Avenue, but it's on the 14th floor, called Mitchell's by appointment only. So we actually have 9 stores throughout the country, and we have 427 wonderful people that work with us, and we continue to have fun. Obviously, over the years, we understood that cash is king, and we have a very strong balance sheet and have built relationships through our values, which we can get into also. We'll talk a lot about values. I know John and I believe strongly that a lot comes from your family values and your business values. We actually have them codified. We did get some help from Interwill, which is a company that talks about leadership-based values, and they helped us to codify these particular values. But we have, our mission is to make people feel great. The vision is to be the best specialty stores on the planet. 4 basic values: customers are the center of the universe, relationships. We really believe in authentic relationships, and then we believe in data. We're very, very data-driven. We not only to know the score, but to build personal relationships. Is it John or is it Jack? Is it William or is it Bill? Is it Sandra or is it Sally? We know those things. What do they do? Did they go to Berkeley or Pat to Stanford? So you know those things about your customers, and they become friends and customers, loyal customers for life. Anyway, I think I probably talked too long, but our business is all about these particular values that we have instilled in everyone that works with us, and they join our team. We try to you'll hear our stories later, how we treat everyone like family. We keep the equity in the business. We had, before this pandemic hit, we had no debt. And you'll hear that story, the financial story. So, but we enjoy the fact that we had a very strong balance sheet. Obviously, it's not as strong as it was as we go forward with our family business. We have an online business too. I should have mentioned that. We do have only 6, 7, 8% of our business is done online, but it's a very updated and very thorough online presentation for our customers. But again, most of it has been done in the stores. And we have fun.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack. That's very helpful. And you're right, the values is a very important issue, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk more about that in this session. So now I'm going to ask John, who is second generation with specialty restaurants, to give us a little background in his family and his family business. John?
Thank you, Pat. Honored to be with you. Thank you, Family Business Magazine, and extremely honored to be here with Jack. I remember meeting Jack down in Tampa at my restaurant when we were able to host one of the family business conferences, and from there I've stayed friends with Jack and always look forward to seeing him and hearing his story. So it's honored to be with him as well. So for us, we're a company that actually started the same year that Jack's business started, 1958. My dad started the restaurant in Long Beach, California with some partners. And from there we grew, and it was all partnerships, and ended up going public in 1968 after we had about 10 restaurants. And it was a way for his partners to exit out, and the family still kept a strong stake in it, but we went public. But my dad, at his heart, was really an entrepreneur, and he really wanted to run the business. So he spent the next 10 years after that trying to go private. So we went private in 1980, and today we still have some outside shareholders from our early days of being public, but 99% of the business is now closely held by the family. And that family includes my dad's second wife. My dad, I should say, passed away 13 years ago. But his second wife is a shareholder and sits on my board. I have two siblings that don't work for the business that also sit on my board. And then my ex-CFO in the business sits on my board, and myself. And then I have some board advisory members that are outsiders that kind of help us in leading the business. And then I have two other family members, my mom, who's an officer still of the company and represents that first generation. And then I have a brother who works with me in the business. And my brother has two kids, and I have two kids, and my two kids have kind of chosen to go a different path, but my brother's two kids are kind of hovering in the future of joining the business. At least that's the intentions. And during the downturn that we've had, both have been working part-time to help us by helping support us. And I think that goes to the culture we have within the family of people stepping up. We at one time had 100 restaurants around the country that we had built out over time. We currently have 18. We got big really fast, and then we got smaller really fast. I know there's a slide up that kind of tells a story of what we used to be just back before this pandemic kicked in, and we're expecting to build back up to that. Of our restaurants, of the 18, we have 14 of them open currently, and we're in Florida and California are the primary locations that we have. Because we are a diversified business with real estate, and we have some aircraft that World War II aircraft that my dad was a B-17 bomber. In World War II, we own a B-17. That it's kind of crazy that a restaurant company has these aircraft, but that's part of his legacy, and we've continued that on. And we also have real estate, and I would say that like Jack, we've been a conservative company financially, and I've had people over the years, some of my YPO friends have said, why do you have so much money in your business? Thank goodness I kept it in there, because it's really helped us, navigate during this difficult time.
Thank you, John.
Thanks.
So
Can I just add one more thing about our family business?
Sure, Jack. Go ahead.
We also have the fourth generation coming close ahead. I mean, we have 7 adult grandchildren. My brother has several also that are graduated from college. So we have a rule in our family business, thanks to David Bork, who was our family business consultant. Now we have Kevin Gersha, so we have a family business consultant. We have a rule, you have to work 5 years somewhere else after you graduate from college. But Lyle, our oldest grandson, who's 26, he actually stepped up and became the president of our family council, which consists of anyone that's descended from my mom and dad and spouses. Because we all know in family businesses, you marry, but you don't always have exactly the same values. Hopefully similar values, but we don't want any entitlement in our family business. So anyway, we have a family council, and it's now represented by, as long as you're 14 years old or older, and so that includes a lot of the G4s that are coming along in our family business. So, and we have a family office that we're part of, and again we have the advisory. We have an outside advisory board that consists of, there are 6 non-family executives, very senior people that help us, along with anyone that's a Mitchell that's actively working in the business. So we have a structure to our family business that we've used for many years and continue to update and use, and has blessed us with good advice and counsel.
Well, thank you for that, and I think we'll probably get questions around those topics of family structure and counsel. I would like to move on to the survey that Family Enterprise USA did this year. We do every year. Family Business Magazine, Peter and David thought it would be a good idea if I just shared a few slides with you about the impact of COVID-19 on the expectations of family businesses in 2020. So the first slide I'm going to show with you is their expectations around revenue. And I'm surprised with these results and that the COVID-19 didn't play a bigger role, but on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see that many of these businesses tend to be larger or medium-sized businesses. In fact, 76% of them have over $11 million in revenue. But what is interesting on the right-hand side of this screen is you'll see 26% of them are very confident that they're going to increase revenues in 2020, and 46% of them somewhat confident. I should mention that this survey was done from January 31st to April 24th. So this was during the peak of the pandemic. And at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you will see their expected sources of growth, what they see in terms of what's going to help them grow their business. 68% believe it's going to be their strategic business choices. And at the bottom, you will see 16% say they really don't expect their business to grow, and primarily that related to the COVID-19. I'm actually surprised that that number wasn't bigger, quite frankly. In terms of, I'm going to move on to the next slide, what they see to the top risk to their business, recession certainly, and the turndown is 58%, and 16% is these other risks that include, as you see in the box, the coronavirus or COVID-19, all this relating to that 16%. I think some of that probably is reflected in the 58%. In other words, people, instead of choosing other, chose the business market turndown and the impact of the COVID-19 on the market. And the last slide I'll share with you is what they see in terms of the impediments to growth. And once again, these were their choices. They chose market conditions at the top of the list, but then other, meaning the coronavirus, as well as labor shortages and rising costs and expenses. So it is, again, interesting that the COVID-19 pandemic didn't play maybe a bigger economic role in these businesses, but especially since it was during the time period when the pandemic was going very strong. So now I want to move on to some questions for our two panelists, and I'm going to start with probably the hardest question, but I think the question that most everyone wants to hear. And Jack, I'm going to start with you. So what were the biggest challenges that you faced during the COVID-19 pandemic, and even the civil unrest that's happened that resulted currently in our country?
Well, candidly, it's just a simple, big concept, but our biggest challenge, and it really wasn't a challenge, but we just increased the intensity and sense of urgency of open, candid communication with everyone that is part of our network. Obviously, most importantly, our own family, and then the key executives that have helped build our family business and continue to do that, and then every single associate. We like softer words like associates rather than employees. And how do we do that? We made a decision family-wise that we would not lay off or furlough anyone of those 427 people. So that was because we believe that, like I said in the value statement, that people are our most important asset. And the people that we have, we wanted to send the message that we would continue to pay them, not forever, but we would continue to pay them as best we could out of our, and we were able to and this was difficult too, to all the challenges with the PPP money, but we did finally work our way through that and we did receive government help. So the biggest one was how we do that and keep our customers informed of what we are doing. Obviously, we had to close, and the government made us close, and we would have anyway because of it. And no one in our family, and only one or two of our associates have had the virus because we really believe in their safety and their through again, by communicating. They nicknamed me Mr. Zoom. I'm the chairman. I'm not the CEO. Our two of our sons are the co-CEOs, and they ran the family meetings, which we always had once a week. For the first 3 weeks, we had it every day. We had a family meeting, and every other day we added the executives at the end of the call. It's key, the T10 executives that are stretched in all the stores that we have. So we wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. Again, it's a long story, but we don't believe in voting in our family business. It's a consensus-driven with leadership, with the right leadership of getting to hopefully doing the right thing, and clearly the right thing, and we could afford to do it, at least for a while. We still have not furloughed anyone. That was the right thing to do. So how you position that and how you get the spirit and having people believe that you really do believe in them, what you could see the smiling faces and feel the dynamics now that we're open. That was the right decision to do.
Well, thank you for that. And I think, John, you're in one of the more difficult, Jack's business is very difficult too, being retail and trying to deal with customers, but the restaurant business was probably one of the hardest hit with the COVID-19. So maybe you can tell us what your challenges were.
Yeah, thank you. For us, and I kind of take a step back, the way I've tried to manage our business as a second generation leader has been to work with my family and run the business, but a lot of it has to do with communication and managing the family. And the one thing I learned early on was no surprises. Try to keep the surprises to a minimum. And unfortunately, with this situation, we were dealing with surprises left and right. And I think uncertainty was probably our biggest challenge. Things were just taken out of our control, where we were told we had to close down. And, back in those early days, nobody had an idea that this was going to happen. And when it happened, there was talk that it was going to be a short period, and then it dragged out. So the culture within our company and our board and the family quickly switched from being a pretty well managed meeting where people knew where things were going to a new dynamic that I had to be involved in, where laying out our contingency plans based on the information we had and focused on the things that we knew we could control. And it's been, since the downturn, since mid-March, it's been a different dynamic in our board meetings and with our family, conversations. But I think the good thing was, to Jack's point, communication was the number one thing, and we overly communicated. And I think that helped a lot with the family members knowing that we were going to keep them updated and they weren't going to be wondering, what the heck's going on.
Well, thank you. So during this time, you had to make some really difficult decisions. But was there anything that came out of those decisions and the circumstances and the situation that resulted in a positive direction for the business, or a change that was positive that you really learned from this experience? And conversely, was there any negative that was something that you can never overcome, that it's going to be fixed in time? And Jack, I'm going to start with you with this question.
Well, I don't think yet we have found any major negative, but I think we're still very much in the I want to say early stages of looking at the consequences of the last 3 or 4 months. I don't want to give anyone the impression that our business is solid and good. I think it's solid and good for the long run, provided we can survive, and we will survive, the next year. I think it's going to take a long time to have the business come back to where it was. And I think that we need to find new and different ways of servicing and selling to our customers than we have traditionally done in order to bring that business back. So we keep saying, a lot of times when our associates ask us, what are we going to do on this? We will just say, well, you know what? We really don't know. But we are nimble enough, and we have the financial strength. And just look around our industry. Think of Neiman Marcus, bankrupt. Barney's is already gone. J. Crew is in bankruptcy. J.C. Penney. Nordstrom's is struggling. I mean, you've got all the people in our space, and they all furloughed people all immediately, or not all of them did all of them, but most of them did. So anyway, our people are very grateful to us, and we're counting on them. We're telling them now, we need everybody, and one of our values we go back to, we can talk about, is everybody sells, whether it be accounts receivable, accounts payable. Obviously, we had to sell our landlords where we don't own the buildings to give us help on the rent. And we also have to work with our vendors, our Desenia family. Most of them are family businesses, the Cuccinelli family, the Loro Piana, people like that. Well, Loro Piana is owned by a conglomerate now, but they're family, and we have to know them. We have to rely on the personal relationships that we've had, that we will be around. Therefore, they need to help us financially in some of these areas, because obviously we have a lot of, we don't think we're going to be back to normal for the fall, so we had to adjust our fall clothing orders. If we're wrong, there'll be plenty of merchandise around, believe me. So I think it's too early to really say what anything negative that has come about it, except for, of course, our balance sheet is depleted, not depleted, but has gone down dramatically, and we'll have to work hard over the next decade to bring it back to where it was.
Very quickly, Jack, we've got a question from the audience in regards to physical locations being closed. Has the crisis increased your investment in use of digital technology? Again, just a quick aside here.
It hasn't increased it, but it's because we have an internal team. All of the digital work that we've done, the online work, all of our CRM systems, which I'll put up against anyone in any industry, we've all been self-developed. So we have a team of about 8 or 9 developers here. We have a data scientist. So our focus is to utilize them in order to speed up the process of having our sellers use some of the tools that are there to connect to our customers. But I mean, there's no question that we will be charging them with more and different ways to help us sell our clothing. And we stepped up the education of our sales associates to use the data and use the the systems that we have in the digital world.
Thank you.
So John, in your business, were there any positives that came out of how you had to change the business, or significant negatives that you want to talk to us about?
There definitely was a positive. I think in our business, and probably with most businesses, we're constantly going, 100 miles an hour. And if somebody said to you, we're going to slow your business down to where you can really reevaluate what's important, what makes you money, what doesn't make you money, and then build it back in a new way. I would say, well, that's a luxury I never will be given, because who's going to ever slow down my business? And this was an opportunity for us to really stop and think about our business in a different way. I walked into restaurants that had, no food in them, and so we could build our menu back in a way that we cross-utilized and became more efficient. We limited items on our menu where we had menus that were probably too expansive. We were able to, bring people back and train them in a guest and employee safety centric way and rebuild a culture. I mean, there's so many things that we were able to do going forward that I think puts us on the path of success that we never really would have had that opportunity to do if we hadn't had this. So I think there's a silver lining for our business. Unfortunately, a few things you just can't seem to ever, win is, it's amazing with unemployment as it is, we can't hire enough people right now. And staffing is still a great challenge and is going to continue to be a challenge going forward.
One thing I've
Go ahead,
failed to
Jack.
mention, excuse me, Pat, I don't know if it's true with John, but when he mentioned the trying to find people, I know there's going to be some of the great sellers, some of the great people in the merchants and some of these other stores that are no longer with us or that are going through bankruptcy that want to come to us, provided we can, show them that there is a future in the Mitchell family stores. And, we had made some investments just prior to the collapse. I mean, our business, the luxury business was not booming when this whole pandemic hit. So we were able to find people that came from Saks and from Barney's and from Nordstrom's and so forth, and that Neiman's, that they didn't want to be with a corporation. They wanted to be with a family business, or at least that treated them like, I always kid, like a good family business. People get along, that a functioning family business. That was the word. Because we're a functioning family, just like John is, and we all have challenges in the family. But it's a little different when you can, go up and see one of the family members and talk to them and have them talk to you about their own personal situations, which is what we do, rather than, these are the rules, you can't do this, you can't do that, rather than putting all the negatives in front. We want to put the positives, how they can grow and thrive with our business. And I think there'll be a lot of people positively a year from today that were furloughed and this and that, and that are in our case sellers, just use the numbers, that are $2-3 million sellers that would come and work with us. Which, by the way, we're not on commission except for Mario's, which Mario is really running that business, because I said he likes to, and he's doing a great job in Seattle and Portland. So when you're not on commission, you're paying your people. But if we're on commission, you just don't pay the people. I mean, if there's no sales, they don't make any money. So I think there'll be a lot of people out there that will want to work with us when we can show that there's opportunities.
So John, you talked about communication, family business values. How did you communicate during this time, not only with the family, but with your customers and most importantly with your employees? So the question always is, how transparent should I be? Should I tell them, too much, not enough? So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the communication strategy that you used. John?
I'll start with the employees, our team members. As you remember, everybody ran out of eggs and toilet paper and everything else, and the one thing we had a lot of was eggs and toilet paper. So we had the opportunity where every week we offered up care packages to our employees that they could come up and get supplies. And it gave us an opportunity for the management teams to talk with each individual and update them on what was going on. And then on top of that, we use hot schedules to communicate. It's a scheduling program, and we would post every week information on what's going on. And at the beginning, most of what we communicated was resources for the employees. Many of them had never been laid off or furloughed before, and they didn't know where to go. And so helping them in that, that challenge was something I heard from employees that was really helpful. For our guests, I think everybody kind of understood what had happened. It was top of mind. So unfortunately for us, 40% of our business is events. And many people had weddings scheduled, and they had to postpone or cancel. And so we kept our catering sales teams on to work with our guests, and in many cases, we ended up having to refund money to them. And we went from having a policy that, basically the guest was locked in, but every person that had asked us for a refund, we refunded it right away. And, I think that calmed a lot of our guests. And then for the family, we discovered Teams, Microsoft Teams, and we had jumped around with some other technology, but we've really settled in with Teams as a way to communicate, not just with our team members on the management side, but also our family members. But during that process of kind of settling in, we were having phone calls once a week. And, depending on where we were in this crisis, we may have a few others because we were dealing with our bank and dealing with landlords and, all that uncertainty. And I communicate regularly out with a note once a week to them. But we've now switched back. I think they feel comfortable. They do call me if they do have questions, but I think they feel comfortable that they're being kept up to speed at this point today.
So I want to get into the future of the family business post-COVID-19. But Jack, do you want to comment on communication strategy with the family and your customers and your employees?
Sure. I indicated earlier, we really use the Zoom method of communicating. So we had many Zoom. We formed different committees, communication committee. We already have our sales team leaders. We have obviously the family with the executive group. We have the advisory board. We have the tailor shops had a meeting. If you had tailor shops, you have the head of the tailor shops and anybody that really can understand the English, which is sometimes challenging. You had all the stores. You could literally get on and it was led by whoever the leader was, the tailor shop, or Mario, or my son Bob, or one of the senior people. So we constantly kept them informed about what we were doing and where we are. Those people that 90% of the associates that are in the executive side or in the selling side, you go to your computer or your phone or your iPad, and you can see the sales and or the lack of it. You can look up every single customer and we know every customer, the data that goes back, in Westport to 1989, every single sale by SKU. So, and then we know their names, their nicknames, their birthdays, their anniversaries. And what we did was, with the customers, we would communicate with them through calling them on the telephone, just checking in. How you doing, John? How you doing, Pat? what's going on, and we're thinking of you. That was or an email that would say that we're thinking of you during these challenging times. We hope you're healthy. We can. I mean, I bet I helped a dozen. That's an exaggeration, probably half a dozen friends and customers that needed particular special treatment in the hospitals around. Well, I'm on the Greenwich Hospital Board, which is part of the Yale system. My brother Bill's on another board, another hospital board. So we were able to help, that way. We had a couple of senior people that came out of New York City. They had homes in Connecticut and a home in New York. That's where they lived in New York. But they just when New York was, terrible, they retreated and cocooned in Connecticut, but they didn't have doctors out here. So we kept in touch with emails and when texting and phone calls, and we have lists that we send to our associates to make those phone calls. Now they already have their own lists for selling, but we didn't talk about you need any suits, you need any sport coats or dresses. Now they obviously what we wanted to do was first connect. How are you healthy? I hope everybody's healthy. And then as we opened, of course, we began to see, especially if they had special events like a wedding or, God forbid, a funeral, that they needed something. Then we follow up by our classic ways of communicating. But we have ways of double checking in, not checking up, but checking in on our associates because everybody's selling. And the same thing goes with accounts receivable and accounts payable. Those people have to constantly keep that personal relationship they have, and they do that through the technology that we use.
So let's talk about the office, the business of the future, and what things have you changed? What kind of operating procedures? What kind of security procedures, especially with the civil unrest that's happened in the business? And do you see those procedures, operating procedures, security procedures, to be something that you will keep long term, or do you think it's just during this short term environment? And I'm going to start with you, John.
Yeah, for us, one part of our business, which was big, was if you came in on Sunday, we had a nice buffet brunch, and that's gone and probably will be gone forever. So, that's something from an operations standpoint, our guests that came to love it are now learning to love, a different offering. From a technology standpoint, we've embraced contactless payments, and we believe that the future is going to be where a guest wants to get up, like to get out of an Uber and just leave and not have to worry about paying the check and going through that process. We believe that they're going to be using their own technology, their own cell phone, and to order, to pre-order, to do pretty much everything that they need to interact with the menu. They'll be able to do it themselves at the table. And we're embracing that. It's technology that's available and is being developed with other operators, and we see that happening. So those are two really big things that we see.
Any security measures that you are putting in place now? I mean, not just from the cleanliness, but from any kind of operational procedures that maybe you didn't employ in the past?
Well, I should talk about cleanliness because I believe cleanliness right now is the number one thing our guests wants to see, and we believe that that's something that's going to be true going forward. And we see it as kind of the new loyalty program is creating a safe environment that the guest feels that we are doing everything possible to make their experience safe and sanitary, and we see that being really important. From a technology security standpoint, you're always concerned about that, but at this point, we have not focused on that.
Well, Jack, how about you? Any procedures that you've changed, operating procedures or security procedures? I know that you had mentioned on the pre-call that your store in Seattle that there was an attempt to loot that store. And maybe you want to share that story and how are you addressing those concerns going forward?
Well, we've, like John, having a healthy, safe environment is top on everyone's mind. So we've done, more than even some of the governors or the mayors or whatever have. I mean, here in all the stores we require masks of our people, our associates, plus customers. They must wear the mask, and we, people, since you have to get to our stores, you usually have to drive or somehow, and we have masks. If they didn't have a mask, we have masks for them. In fact, our tailor shop made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in each of them, and we were giving different masks away in different plaids and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, but we keep the place clean. We have all kinds of wipes down, everything all the time. So we want to make sure that the word gets out that we really mean it. It's a safe place to shop, and that I think is going to stay with us for a while. I hope it's not going to be forever, but it's a function of what we do with the virus and the vaccines and all things that are hopefully going to come down the pike. But until that happens, we need to continue to find ways that demonstrate to every single customer and every single associate that we have a safe place to shop and to live in and work in. And when we go the extra mile to do that. The story on Seattle, and we had some in Portland too. To me, it's one of the best stories. I actually write a Hug of the Week story every week, something that I find is supports our values. In fact, every day we ask for success stories from our sales managers in every single store. So they'll tell you about one or two things. It becomes easy to do because you can see how you go on the extra mile or done something unique that the customer wanted. But the night that there was rioting and looting in San Francisco, Erin, who's one of our sales managers, a woman, manages the women's department. She sent us the story the next day that she just couldn't stand watching television, seeing all the looting that was going on. So when they said that those people that were looting left, she emailed everybody on her team at the store in Seattle, Mario's in Seattle, when they went down to the store. And would you believe we were one of two stores that weren't looted. Somehow we of course had boarded up, and yes, the windows had been broken, but somehow they couldn't get in. But everybody else had been, and of course we had probably the most expensive items in town. So anyway, by the time she got there were other members of her team, and almost every single associate that works at Mario's came down to help clean up, make sure that they put the right merchant. They went in the store and moved the merchandise around so that the real expensive things like jewelry and whatever were in a special spot, that if there was looting the next days, that would be secure. I mean, I'm talking about in the middle of the night they went down. So it's amazing the spirit that because we kept them on, but all she had to do was, she didn't even ask. She said she was going to go down there to clean up. If you want to come down, anyway. So that's a story that I'm very proud of.
Yeah,
and
extraordinary commitment. Yeah, exactly. We have two questions as we get towards the end of our time together, and the first question is specifically for John. It's come in from the audience. John, you talked about having this time to reflect and really evaluate the processes and kind of your business models and look at efficiencies. Do you think that reflective time will be something that is on a regular basis for you and your management team?
Yeah, that's a great question. It should be. It really should be. I think back to that time when this first happened, and I'm sure many people on this call, but we have friends in our neighborhood that probably tell a story that they were able to read a book or go on lots of walks and do all kinds of nice things during the downturn that they didn't have the chance to do before. For my management team, we worked a lot of hours trying to figure out how our business needed to be different, and didn't get that time away because of the concerns of how this was going to affect us. And it was a different dynamic because we were all working remotely, and we were constantly on Zoom calls and Teams calls and stuff. And many of us talk about how being away and getting different perspectives and not being kind of hunched together in the office was really beneficial to getting different thoughts. And I think I mentioned at one time to you that even family members that were remote in different parts of the country, when they were on calls, gave us great perspectives from the outside and really felt like they could contribute real-time information. And, I think it made a big difference for us. And, it's a great question. Definitely something we need to incorporate in how we move forward.
Nice. Great. And then the last question is for
I just want to add, if I can,
yeah.
This is Jack. Obviously, when you introduced me, I've written 3 books on hugging your customers, hugging your people, and hugging the selling way. Well, obviously, you can't, hugging is a metaphor. I just want to emphasize that. And it's become obviously because you can't shake hands, you can't give high five, it's hard even to see the smile behind the mask. So it's a matter of figuring out ways that you can make, which is our mission, make people feel great. That doesn't. And how do you do it virtually? How do you do it online? How do you make? How do you hug and make people feel great? If that's the definition, that are safe and healthy. And I tell you, we spent a lot of time talking about that. And to answer your question, like John did, we will spend more time. It'll be an agenda item all the time to see if we can't come up with new ways of showing to our customers that we truly care about them, and we really want to make them feel great when they come in the stores. And we used to serve coffee. We used to serve, if somebody wanted a drink, but that wasn't a big deal. But M&Ms, we used to have hot dogs outside in the front of the store. That's all gone. So how do we keep the culture of hugging in a metaphorical sense going as we move forward? And we're going to spend a lot of time and energy and experiment with different ways. And I'm confident we'll find one.
So we have 3 minutes left, a little under 3 minutes, and I've got one last question that deserves a yes or a no, and I got to keep you to a yes or a no. If you weren't a family business with strong family backing, would your results and outlook be different now? John, yes or no?
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
Repeat that.
If you were not a family business with strong family backing, would your results and outlook be different now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. Pat, any final thoughts?
I have more questions, but I think we've almost run out of time. But I would, if they can answer this quickly, I would just like to ask, what do they see in terms of the financial future for their businesses? We don't need specific numbers. But I talked to a family the other day who said their business was down 25%, but as of today, they're back up to last year's revenue already. Now, they're in the transportation business, so not quite as difficult as both Jack and John are facing. But where do you see your businesses in terms of their financial future? When will you think you will be back 100%? John?
Less than a minute.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think with the uncertainty of a second wave and our business being down 60% right now, we are hoping, and that's a lot of hope, that we're going to be back in March to where we were right before. But I think we're looking probably to always be down about 20-30% for a while.
Okay, Jack, quickly.
I think I agree with John. I think it's going to be for us, it's going to be a long road ahead. I don't think we're going to be back to, even ending this year for quite a while. I don't know how else to say. We just don't know. Obviously, we're going to work hard and think hard and do everything we can to bring the business back in our culture and new ideas to do it. But I don't see it coming. I mean, we follow the trend in China and and through Bain and all the people that give us all the information, you see what's people, the luxury people, when are they going to start buying again? When are they going to want a nice dinner, or when do they want a nice sport shirt or a nice new sport coat or a dress? Our customers don't need very much, but they like nice things, and so it's going to be a while. And I mean, in some of our stores, we haven't still gotten back to where we were in 2008. Can you imagine that in certain areas? So
I would like to thank you, Jack and John. I'd like to thank both of you for joining us today, and Family Business Magazine for putting this event on. I think it was very informative, and I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Great. Thank you, Pat. And of course, thank you, Jack and John, for your thoughtfulness and your candor. I really appreciate it. And you, attendees, we thank you for participating in our week-long webinar series. Again, my thanks to Family Enterprise USA for sponsoring and hosting today's discussion, and to Tollison Wealth Management for their sponsorship of the webinar series. We hope that you and your families remain safe and healthy and connected to each other. You may disconnect from this webinar now. Thank you.